Come on, dear. Find your happy place, dear craft. Find your... Oh, we're recording because, girl, you already know what time it is. We're going to be reacting to True Story Scary Animations Part 5. That's what my teacher said when she had me in my report. What the mom did. You wanna know what she said? Piece of meat. Oh. Dear Army, I am absolutely terrified because you remember last shoot that we had to scary animations. Somebody actually their pants on YouTube. So yeah. True Story Scary Animations. Girl, you wanna know what's going on? Hey, everybody, go out to Wanzy Entertainment and tell them it's Deercraft sent you. But girl, you wanna know what's about to be happening? Oh God. Or a creepy coincidence horror story. So we're gonna do 5. We're gonna do 4, and the 4th one is bonus coincidence.
This happened to me in 1970s. To be exact, it was November 23rd, 1971. I was 20 years old at the time and was really down on my luck. I was living in Portland, but I'm from Seattle, and I'll be going home very soon.
Oh, and also,
I had lost my job and was about to be evicted from my apartment because I couldn't pay the rent. I would be fine back home to stay with my parents until I could find a new job or somehow get the money for my apartment, which would be very unlikely. I had one night left in my apartment before leaving. I didn't feel like staying home, so I decided to go for a walk and have a drink in a bar. On my way to the bar, I stopped at a convenience store and purchased a lottery ticket. I walked down the street and entered a nearby bar, where I ordered myself a beer. Not long after that, a man came inside and sat next to me and ordered a drink. We got to talking about life and just general conversation when he mentioned he was going to a flight the next day to Seattle.
I don't care if you're 50 million.
I laughed and asked him,
Don't
"Wait,
talk
flight
to
305?
strangers. Hashtag
He
no
laughed and
strangers.
said, "Yeah, that's the one." He asked me why I was heading.
Girl, no, girl.
I told him I had money troubles, and coincidentally, he said the same thing.
Little boy.
He seemed like a nice guy. We talked for about another hour before he decided to call it a night.
This is Don't Get Kidnapped 101. This is Kidnappers 101. Act nice. Girl, you...
Fortunately, I never caught his name. I was about to leave the bar myself shortly after that when I heard over the TV that the lottery numbers would be announced. I decided to stay and check if I had won. Why not? And would you believe it? I won $15,000.
He won the
Of course, I was beyond belief with shock.
$15,000.
And of course, I wouldn't need to go back home because I had money now. The next day, I saw something on the news that a flight had been hijacked and the plane was being held at ransom. It was the same flight I was going to be on. And I couldn't believe it, but the sketch of the guy they described who took the flight hostage was the exact same man I had been talking to in the bar. He used the name D.B. Cooper. If you didn't know, he threatened to explode the plane with a bomb unless he got $200,000. Which...
No. So, we're on the part we're going to be doing. Alright, here we are. Number 1.
We've always thought this guy was just an idiot playing pranks. He would make really weird comments too, like, "I want to order a large pizza with pineapples, mustard, and your skin. I'll never forget that one. We usually just hang up on his ass now, and we always know it's him calling because his number is saved in our system. So we called again a few months ago and ordered a pizza normally. No bullshit, no weird comments or sounds.
Alright, we've watched this one already, but then we're gonna be watching 7 True. A doctor became
Week before Kim's 10th birthday, she walked to the corner store with a $5 bill and picked up a jar of ragu for her mom. On her way home, a man she'd never seen before began talking. "Hi," he said cheerfully. "My name is Dr. Ramsey. I'm a pediatrician. Do you know what a pediatrician is?" Kim walked along silently, not replying and fervently hoping he would take that as a sign he should leave her alone. "I was just on my way to get some lollipops for the candy jar in my office. What's your name?" Thankfully, they were nearing her house, so she ran forward and went inside. Kim didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of a very long and very scary ordeal. It didn't take long after that for Dr. Ramsey to begin showing up. He would drive by nearly every day, smiling and waving. Kim told her mom, who said maybe it was on his way home from work, but then the phone calls began. Kim's dad asked about the day Dr. Ramsey followed her home, and if she talked to him. He said she wasn't in trouble, but that she needed to tell him the truth. Kim told him no, and he asked if she was sure or if she could be forgetting something. She said no again, and he frowned, then asked, "Then how does he know your name?" Kim didn't know. It turns out that was not all he knew. He knew her sister's name as well. Neither Kim nor her sister were allowed to answer the phone, and he called several times a day. Then one night, one of Kim's brothers told them that he was telling their parents that he was going to hurt her and later her sister. Things got complicated after that. Kim's dad called the police, but as this was before there were any stalking laws, there was not a lot they could do. They told the parents to call back if he tried anything. Kim's dad then called a friend of his who happened to be a cop. For the next month, her dad's friend escorted her to and from school. She couldn't go outside alone anymore. Then one afternoon, all the siblings and their mom were in the kitchen, when all of a sudden one of the brothers saw a glimpse of someone in the garage. Dr. Ramsey came bolting out of it and the brother chased after him. They ran all the way to Cherokee Park where he lost him in the trees. Kim's parents called the police again, but nothing came out of it. The only information they had was a description and a name that was almost certainly fake. A couple weeks later, the family woke up to something horrific happened to their German Shepherd. The cops said there was no evidence it was him and ruled it accidental, but none of them believed that. His phone calls became more informative in the meantime. That night, the dad put in some carpenter nails in the bottom of the French doors until he got a new lock ordered. Her parents had to go to a company event for her dad's work, and the older brother was at a skating event, so only the 3 younger ones were home. Suddenly, the top of the French door swung inward, and in the few milliseconds before the nails in the bottom caused them to snap back, Kim could see his silhouette. The sisters crept down to the brother's room to look. Someone was standing at the back door, knocking loudly. "What do you want?" she said. "Is this the Mercy residence? I have a pizza for delivery." She scoffed at him, declaring she was not stupid and she was calling the cops. Before they knew it, he left. A short while later, her brother returned home. Kim told him what happened and he walked around the yard watching for him. By now, the family had pretty much given up calling the cops because it never helped. As the younger brother was in the kitchen, he had this sensation that he was being watched. He stepped closer, then closer again until he was right up to the door. There on the other side of the window was Dr. Ramsey smiling back at him. He turned to yell for his older brother, but when he looked back again, he was gone. They went out again to look for him, but didn't see him anywhere. A week later, Kim was at school and the kids were outside on the playground during recess. She was swinging upside down when she saw that familiar blue car cruising by, moving slowly. There he was, smiling and waving. He called called her name and Kim ran to the teacher and told her. The school had been told all about him and the teacher took her inside right away and called Kim's mom. That same day, her mom had gotten a call from the school office asking her to verify that Kim's dad was picking her up, as he called to say that he was on his way. He wasn't. Not long after that, Kim woke up one night thirsty. She went down to the kitchen for a drink, and there, sitting alone in the dark, was her dad. On the table was a gun. He was tired of being afraid every time he left for work that something would happen to his kids while he was gone. Kim sat with him for a time, watching, before he sent her back to bed. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. He had vanished from their lives. The phone calls, the drive-by and creepy waves, everything. For a long time during and after the Dr. Ramsey incident, she would have a recurring nightmare in which she would wake up to find him standing over her as she slept. It took a long time before Kim felt like a kid again. She still wonders if the wait had ended for her dad when he was waiting in the darkened kitchen that one night. Kim doesn't know, and she's not sure that she wants to. Olivia and her fiancé threw a dinner party one time to celebrate his mom completing chemo. She hired a caterer and they were expecting 25 friends and family. The caterer said he'd bring everything 75% done, but he needed to finish off some dishes in their kitchen. She told him that was fine as long as he finished by 5. He arrived as scheduled at 12 p.m., but the moment he entered the house, Olivia noticed that he had a disgusting smell. That made her uneasy because he was going to be preparing food for sick prior and young kids. She just made sure he washed his hands and then left him to his own devices, worrying she was just being presumptuous. The entire time he kept asking her about the seasoning of the food and telling her to taste it. She said, "You're the chef, so I trust you. You don't have to keep asking me." Fast forward, he was still there at 5:45. The guests were arriving, so after 2 gentle reminders, she flat out told him she needed him completely out by 6 no matter what. He apologized and said there had been a delay because Olivia's oven wouldn't stay up to temperature. She never had a problem with her oven before, but figured he's the professional, so maybe it was a subtle problem. He gets his bags and packs everything up, but suddenly heads towards her bedroom. Olivia's completely taken aback and says, "Excuse me, where are you going?" And he says, "To change." She tells him she's not comfortable with him going in her room and there's a restroom to do that. But he insisted it will only take a second and goes in and shuts and locks the door. Olivia couldn't even get a word out before he went in and felt helpless. At this point, her fiancé had come back home, so she explained the situation to him. Confused as to what was going on, he pounds on the door, telling the caterer to come out. The man opens the door wearing a t-shirt and jeans. Her fiancé said, "You shouldn't be in there. You need to leave." The caterer responded and said, "Excuse me, but this is not your house. It's not up to you to decide." "Yes, actually, it is. My fiancé lives here with me." Suddenly, the caterer goes nuts. He turns to her and screams, "You lied to me!" Olivia had no clue what he was talking about. He starts yelling about how she led him on and blurting nonsense, calling her disgusting names. He then goes in the kitchen and starts throwing the food out of the refrigerator and onto the floor. Without hesitating, the fiancé and his 2 brothers forced him to leave the house immediately. Thankfully, the party then went on as planned. But Olivia insisted they just order pizza and throw out all the food he made. After partying, they went out late drinking with his brothers and got home at around 3:30 a.m. and passed out in their room. And then, at around 5 a.m., Olivia was woken up to the sound of the door opening. Olivia wakes up her fiancé and whispers, "I think someone just came in the house." He said, "Probably my brother left his wallet or something." Olivia figured she's being paranoid when suddenly a loud crash came from outside the room. He told her to lock herself in the closet and call 911 while he went out and looked around. As she was pulling out her phone, they hear, "Olivia! Hello?" And she realizes that insane caterer. She went out outside and saw the man shirtless and clearly on something. He lunges towards Olivia and her fiance stops him while she called the police. He tells them the cops have been called and it would be in his best interest for him to get off the property. The caterer says, "I have to make sure Olivia's okay." Her fiance stayed between them while she climbed out the window. He even thought of taking the gun out of the safe. The caterer began to destroy their kitchen, and when the cops finally came in, they see that he has a knife on him. He didn't obey police's orders to drop his weapon, so they tased him. As he's being let out in handcuffs, he's shouting out how he and Olivia are in love. The police asked to do an inventory of the house and see if anything's missing or damaged besides what they witnessed him do. They went around, but saw nothing. But then Olivia remembered that he was in her room. She quickly checked and found out that all her panties were gone. They were so freaked out in the aftermath that they replaced all kitchenware and they had a cleaning crew do a deep clean on the whole house. Olivia was so glad that she decided not to serve the food to the guests, especially her fiance's fragile mother. The caterer sent a letter from prison and thankfully her husband intercepted because she was still recovering from the whole thing. They gave it to the police who helped issue a no-contact order. He was sent to 3 years in prison and thankfully Olivia and her family never saw him again.
Yeah, right.
When I was about 6 years old, my mom started taking my sister and I to Dr. Daniel's dental office. The dental center was located inside a giant yellow mansion that also doubled as his house. When my sister and I got called in, my mom followed us into the office until she was told by Dr. Daniels that parents weren't allowed to be with their children as it taught kids independence, to which my mom complied to. Growing up, I had batting.
Alright, so we're going on to number 3.
My brother's girlfriend Amanda was looking for her first apartment when she decided to move out of her parents' house. She and my brother didn't want to move in together since they had only dated for a few months, so Amanda opted to search for a roommate online. Browsing Craigslist, she found an ad titled "Roommate Wanted, Females Only." This sort of thing was common since the area she was looking in was mostly young professionals. The listing was for a room in a house that was quite cheap compared to the many places listed. The occupant listed herself as a 23-year-old student that wasn't comfortable with living with any males. The other roommate would have their own room and attached bathroom. So far, Amanda was into this place. However, the listing only had a single photo from outside the property. Amanda sent an email wanting to meet the occupant and tour the house. Within 30 minutes, she receives an email back with all the details and time to stop by. The girl worked late hours and wanted Amanda to stop by at 8 p.m. When Amanda arrives, there's a handwritten note on the front door saying, "Door broken. Use back door." Walking around the house, it looks nice but slightly unkempt. Tall grass, weeds, dusty windows, etc. When she knocks on the back door, an older man opens it. At first, Amanda thinks she has the wrong house, but the man reassures her and says the occupant was out and he was the landlord. The occupant asked him to meet Amanda since she was working late. Alarms start going off, but aren't at red alert yet. First, the guy was clearly in his 40s, unshaven, and looked like he lived in his car. Also, only the kitchen light was on. As they walked around the house, Amanda noticed one huge red flag. No furniture. Nothing. The landlord was polite about answering questions, but seemed irritable to keeping lights on for too long, rushing her around and only letting her look at rooms for a few moments. There was a single room that the landlord wouldn't open, telling her that it was the occupant's room and he didn't want to invade her privacy. As they walk down the hallway, she notices the front door has a plank nailed across it. Broken, for sure. Amanda's creep meter is starting to ding, so she decides to wrap up the house tour and leave, but tries to be polite. He perks up and states that he forgot to show her the basement. It's recently furnished and would be a great recreation room. So he opens it. The basement is pitch black. He smiles, motions down the stairs, and says, "Ladies first." What happens next is nothing more than a stroke of luck. Amanda gets a text just as some random person parks in front of the house. Thinking on her feet, she pretends it's a phone call and answers her phone. "Hey, yeah, are you here? I'll come out from around back and let you in." "It's great, you have to see it." With a motion of confidence, she excuses herself around the landlord and walks out the back door. The guy just looked at her and he was confused. Once outside, she quickly sprinted to her car and sped out of there. When Amanda got home, she told her mother and my brother everything. Cops were called, they took her statement and went to investigate. The Craigslist post had been removed. The house had been foreclosed over 6 months earlier and the property had been abandoned. When the police investigated, they found that the closed room the landlord didn't want her to look in was where the man had been staying. There was a pile of old, dirty blankets, rotten food, and empty gallon jugs everywhere. The more creepy thing was he had plastered ripped up pages from provocative magazines on all the walls in the room. And the scariest part of this was the basement. The man had tied a piece of fishing twine at about shin level across the stairs about halfway down. The basement was empty except another old pile of blankets, a broom handle wrapped in leather belts, and a small box with a few rows of assorted tapes. Needless to say, Amanda never ended up moving in, and she hopes she never meets that man ever again.
Well, that's got it for tracking the true story animation.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumb.
Well, that's gonna end it for reacting to True Story Scary Animation Part. Part 5. Peace.